Good morning, YouTube. Good to see everybody's out and about and doing their VRs before they go to VRs, their rants and raves and reviews and all that stuff before they go to work. This is going to be a VR today. This is going to be DeLon Smokes on his rants and his opinions of what he found and out there of the teacher that was, I call dissing U.S. basically and the military. And I've got to say a few things that him and I is back and forth through the comment part of the three videos I think that he did yesterday about that. We both have a strong opinion of what the gentleman from El Rancho or wherever it was, I'm not sure if that was correct or not, of the teacher that I don't know if he was naturally born in the U.S. or not. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go into the opinionated side of all that. But what Lon Smoke asked, what we loved about where we're from, the country that we were naturally born in, raised in, and our government and our military, how we felt about it. So let me get this out of the way real quick before I get into my little rant because I've got a strong opinion about this. And I'm sure he understands and knows that I do because him, like I said, we conversated back and forth a little bit yesterday. But housekeeping, real quick, is my little bent bent apple. I think that's what you call this shape. I'm not 100% sure. But this is one of the ones that I got bare that was a factory second, and I finished it out myself, polished it out. It's kind of dull from handling right now, and uh, excuse me, a little bit of tobacco. But I got to say, this is a little bit of stuffed with hot chocolate. So, and I got a cup of caramel chocolate coffee that I brewed up. That's excellent that I'm drinking. So it complements each other very well. I don't know how long that'll stay, but either here or there. But what I wanted to say is, yes, I was born and raised in, and what I think is one of or is the best country in the world. And I'll say that for several reasons as I get on here. Okay. Yes, I was in the military. Yes, I was in the Air Force. Yes, it made me grow up. It made me find out the sense of responsibility to family and country. Now, I have to say it in that order and then put the emphasis on this. I was raised in a minister's Christian home. Okay, so God comes first, then family and country. So I have to say that strongly. Okay, it is a passion that I believe in. God has taken me through a lot in life and has kept me going. So my beliefs are strong in the faith, in my faith. So with that being said, my dad was in the military. He was in the Air Force also. I was in the Air Force. I didn't say that before. And he got out to go into the ministry because he felt God led to to take him into that career field and serve his fellow man through Christ. So he became a licensed minister, and I will say through the Assembly of God organization out of Springfield, Missouri. But with that being said, we were a poor family. My dad worked hard all of his life. He was a ranch hand out of Montana. He was a forest firefighter. He did anything and everything to survive. Him and his brother, when they joined the service, basically at the same time, or at the same time, he had raised his brother because his family life was not the best network, whatever. So he had to raise his brother, or they kind of raised each other. It doesn't. So they learned how to survive off the land and learn the whole responsibility of work. But he also, when he went to the military, he learned a responsibility to his wife that he met when he was in the service. And my dad actually, back in the day, you hardly got paid anything for being in the military. He worked at least 2 to 3 jobs at a time, plus the military. I don't know how he got away with it. But that's a story I've been told over and over and over. He worked several jobs at the same time, plus serving in his church and trying to keep up with the military and their responsibilities that they expected of him back during definitely wartime in the late 50s and early 60s, or mid 50s and early 60s. I'm not sure how many years. I think he spent 5 or 6 years in. Anyway, but it taught him hard lessons through life. So when I was born in 61, I will say that, we were in the military. I don't, obviously young, didn't know much about it, just stories that were told from my mom and my dad. Growing up, we were a tight knit family, had no money. I mean, hand to mouth. My mom was taught how to take a penny, smash it out, stretch it out to be a dollar. And that's how we lived until I got out of the house after high school, what little college I got. So the responsibilities and life lessons started with my parents. They taught me a lot. They taught me the responsibility. Well, I could go into the military, serve my country, and have a somewhat steady income, a place to live, a place to lay my head, a bed to sleep in. But I was a stubborn little kid at the time when I got out of high school. I married right out of high school. I met my beautiful bride, like I said, asked her to marry me on the very, very first night that I met her, which is another long story. And not too long after that, we were married. Sense of responsibility there. I take those marriage vows to heart. Now, there's going to be a tie into all this here shortly, but I got to say this. Vows and responsibilities. Under God's directive, how we read it out of the Bible, how it is put to us, till death do we part. There's very, very few things in life that I feel as a person that has lived through this. Very, 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 almost to no reason that you can't make a marriage work. A sense of responsibility to what those vows are. You don't get married just to get married and then a couple of years later say, well, this isn't going to work out for me. We're always in all this problem. No, you work through them and you live through them. Okay. But we fell on hard times back when we first were married. Could not find work here in Montana, even though we were married in Florida. That's another long story. We'll get to that someday. But But so I decided as a young man, my responsibility, I haven't served my country yet. But let's put it this way: serving my country, and at that time, no work out there, meant one thing. I was looking for work. I had been looking for work. At the early, early 80s, there was no work in Montana per se, unless you knew the back door, knew the right person, or your nose turned to, that funny dark color to get a job. Okay. So I said, well, the military, here we go. Military is what I decided. Well, that's work. That's a guaranteed income. It wasn't a heck of a lot still, even then, but it was better than nothing. I still had a place to lay my head, a house, a roof over my head. And usually, if in the Air Force, my dad always told me this, if I ever decided to go into the service, that as in the Air Force, one thing you learn, you always had a bed to sleep in most, not always, but most every night. You had a bed and a bed to get out of every day. I got to thinking about that and said, well, I'll follow in my dad's footstep. I went down, oddly enough. My cousin at the time, still is my cousin. I don't think he's no longer with us. In fact, I know that. But he was my recruiter. Told me when I first talked to him, he said, well, you may not make it in the Air Force, but if you don't dash your two tests two batteries of tests that I had to take to get into the service, he said, well, you might decide the Navy or the Army or the Marines because they have a little bit less standard of, depending on what career field I tried to get into, um, a little bit less standards to get in there. So your scores didn't have to be as high as you have to get into the Air Force. So this is a long drawn out story on this part of it, but I like to give people a basis of me going into this. So I go to my place where we were taking our tests. It was an old army base that is no longer in there. They just keep it as a landmark there, and that was in Missoula, Montana, where I took my testing. I missed one question out of all the testing. Basically, I aced it in a roundabout way. I got coached on how to take the test and all that. So basically, I could pick any career field. And my cousin, about his job out dropped, he said, I'm amazed that you can go into anything you want. But I wanted to basically get on the plane that day, step off the plane the next day after we went to to the recruiting center. That was in Butte, Montana, where they processed you in, and they initially first swore you in. Reason why I'm getting to this part of it here is back to responsibility to my wife in my marriage, because under God's eyes, I entered into this marriage. Okay. And the responsibility till death do us part, through sickness, worst times, good times. Doesn't matter. We're in it for life. Now, I will say this real quick. We've been married for going on 37 years from the day that I met her in 1980, somewhere in, I know our anniversary date, but the day that we met. Like I said, 37 years, excuse me. 37 years later, we're still together and we still love each other. But with that being said, going back to the military, I raised my right hand, swore on that Bible that I would serve my country and do as I was asked to do for my country. In the aspect, the only thing that I might have, I'm just paraphrasing this, is in the aspect that, like I said, I took that oath. Okay, went through basic training. Thought it was the worst thing on earth when I went through basic training. I wanted out right then and there, but the head shrinkers, you know how they go when you talk to them, just to make sure that you're okay, that basic training hasn't messed you up to the point where they need to get you out of there or seek mental health for you, whatever the case may be. We had a little short period where they took a day to talk to us and stuff. Or if we wanted to, we went and seen them, and I did because I wanted out. But he talked me to stay in. Okay, I still that first oath. Now, when you get done with your Air Force's 6 weeks of training, at that point in time when I joined, we had to re-swear our oath to the United States in a service that I was in, to God and country. Okay, so why I'm saying this is a sense of responsibility that I took the oath. Okay, I love my country. I love the people of the country. I love our government. Now, let me paraphrase why I say it that way. Our government is screwed up. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying that in a bad way or a good way. I was just saying, like Law and Smoke says, those people come and go. We're here for the haul. Okay. With that being said, I had that sense of responsibility when I was sworn in. Okay. So I went to my first duty base. I started my training because I was an aircraft maintenance, a glorified crew chief, as they call it. But I worked the phase hangar where we tore our aircraft completely down to nothing, fixed whatever had to be fixed, did the maintenance service that at a certain amount of frame hours. So I wasn't, I was an integral cog in when I was in the service of taking care of the aircraft, because if the aircraft went up and crashed and they found out that it was me, I went to jail. So I took that to heart. Okay. I wasn't the best Air Force person, best military guy. I had my problems with military and they had their problems with me, but we worked through it. So at the 4 year mark, when the Grant and Rudman program came along, and I don't know if Lon Smoke, I'm sorry, I don't remember your first name, but they asked through that deal where they were shutting down all the military bases across the United States and across the world, the ones that they were just weeding out. They asked if people wanted early outs or whatever the case may be. If you wanted out, they would early you out, basically pay you off, get your money, ship you to wherever you want to be shipped to, and all your, if you were like me, had a household full of furniture that they moved and everything. But still, sense of responsibility to the military. Okay. The military did a few things for me. Like I said, even though I had problems, they had problems with me. I learned a sense of responsibility even deeper than I know today. A hot-headed, bull-headed teenager, young man when I got out of out of high school, graduated, and like I said, a little bit of college, very little bit of college, 2 semesters, and I was done with it anyway. With that being said, um, still it's sense of responsibility, even when I got out, to God and country. I served more than just the military. I served the people of the world. I have a strong passion about that. I had good buddies, good friends. We knew that if we were called up to go wherever in the world, we had to go. They said jump. We didn't question it. We just asked how high do we need to jump to get there. So we did it. I mean, that's our country, the United States I'm talking about, or any other country anywhere. When the government said and the military said, it's time to go, we went. Sense of responsibility there. I signed that and swore in for that responsibility. Military, through its discipline and work ethics, taught me grow up. My responsibility to the world and my country was this: And I feel that way today, even though I'm not in the military. I've got a hard heart on that part of it. Nobody's going to take that away from me and change my mind. Like he was saying, the the, the people in the office, government offices, they come and go. We don't. We're here for the long haul. So the gentleman that made all of those comments through that video that the student was able to catch on his phone, he has no right to say what he said. He can have his own opinions, but in that environment, in that particular situation, keep them to yourself. I mean, we have freedoms in the United States that most other countries don't have. And I mean that. If he doesn't like it, go to China, go to Korea. I'm just throwing out just a couple, places. Go to some of those communist-based countries and even some of the other European countries and try to live there and voice his opinions the way they do. I know they have marches and protests and everything all over the world. But what happens to most of them if they're a thorn in the side of their governments? They get taken care of one way or the other. We have the freedom of speech here, even though we don't agree with all of it, but we still have that. We have the right to pick up a King James version. I have to say it that way because I'm hard about that too. Bible. Read the Bible. Pray every day. Why did the Mayflower come over here besides they got lost? Don't get me wrong. And they landed on our shores. It was and then the British started coming over and starting to move in and live, the people that wanted to get away from other governments because they didn't have the freedom of speech, their rights, their to live their lives and to believe in their religion. I'm going to say it that way because at first it was a Christianity based. I want to serve my God, okay, Jesus Christ, our Lord. I'm sorry to get on that rant, but that's what our country started based off of. Now we didn't. I mean, yeah, we tried. Our basic how it is. We tried it in the beginning of everything when they first came over here to force things down other people's throat. Didn't work. Hasn't worked, but we still gave everybody their own freedom, even the Native Americans, the right to believe, serve their gods, and not persecute them for it. We had that freedom. That's what I like about the United States. People go to other countries if you got a complaint, change your citizenship to somewhere else, and see how long you would last. This USA is free. We're not perfect. We don't have a perfect government in place. And that's not the political side that I want to push. I just want to delve into what that gentleman put out there. If he doesn't like it, go somewhere else and see how long he'll last. I've got a passion, and like I said yesterday, I love this country. I want to live here. I've got freedoms to step out my back door. I've got enough property. Let me get this said right. And I can pull the trigger on a firearm, and I'm just doing that out in my own backyard to fit the chamber of most guns. I'm not saying that I go out there and shoot. We have designated places that we can go shoot, but I have in most places in the United States, we have the right with what government regulations and everything to own firearms. We have the right to own vehicles. We have the right to own a house. We have we have some freedoms within limitations, I should say. If I want to get in my car take off and go to another state. Now I know they're getting a little bit hard on us on the flying situation, but that's neither here nor there. I get in my car as long as I have the capability of taking care of myself and being able to afford to buy the gas, the food, and the lodging and all that stuff. I can go anywhere in the United States that I want to, virtually anywhere in the United States. Other countries don't have that freedom. So with him saying what he said, let's go back to the military side of it. The military is put in place to serve God and country and defend our country and our people and other countries from governments and people that want to do harm. Okay? We have the right to defend ourselves. That's in our Constitution. So when he says things like that about our military, why are we put here? Yes, the military has some bad apples in it too. They do spoil. But that's not the point to a major extent. Firefighters. It's like the reservists of all of the services that are out there. Even the Coast Guard, all of those people. They're put there for a reason. Coast Guard's put out there for a reason. They are a part of our military. Don't think that they're just, they're not a Marine. They're not the Navy. They are a part of our U.S. military service people. They go out there and save millions of lives every year. That's what they're trained to do. They're trained to serve the people. I was trained to serve the people, to protect our people from us and others. So don't tell me that we're all a bunch of dumb, whats out there for the military. And I'll cut this off right now. But I wanted to get that out there because my passion runs deep. That I have the freedoms that I have in this USA because of our military and the people, not just the military, the people that are in the military. I have my freedoms. There's where my passion. I want to skim this note real quick, and then I'll let everybody go. Is that now I lost my train of thought. Sorry. But needless to say, my sense of responsibility, like I said, back to that, that's what it was. A sense of responsibility. I signed those papers. I swore my oath, and I'm talking about my marriage, my military services, and all the people that are in it. Like I said, we served more than just in the military to our U.S. government. We served the people. We went and did search and rescue. We went, like you said, we went and fought fires. Don't get me wrong. We go out there in the oceans, in the waters of the U.S., and we save people. Talk about our military. We try to, in the best ways that we can, protect our borders for the people that live in the United States and that are citizens of the United States. I want to make that clear. Citizens of the United States. We protect. And we do protect all others too, across the world. That's our sense of responsibility. Once you sign those papers and you swear in, don't take those oaths lightly. Don't just put it out there as a false. I'm in the service to get an education. I'm in the service to make money, and that's it. No. You sign that oath. You swear in on that oath for a reason. To serve. Not to get paid. Not to get an education. I mean, that's a part of it. Don't get me wrong. But the main reason to be in is to serve our country so we have a country that we can live in free. It's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. It's not perfect. But we are free at this point in time in life. Not all countries are. We understand that. What he was saying about our military is 10,000% times 10,000% wrong. Go to some other country, guy, and try to live as free as we do. It's not going to happen. So thank you for listening to my rant. I'm going to get off here. So thank you, Law and Smoke, for listening to me yesterday, putting up with me. Thank you for your chime-ins and chime-backs, saying thank you back. I thank you for your service, and I thank everybody out there that has served. All my friends that were in the service, and some that are not here now because of the service, but that because they were serving. I mean, I was a part of the first Desert Storm. I didn't get to go over there, but I was in the service when that was going on. So I appreciate everyone and thank you for listening to me.